Question 1. In a general agency relationship, which duty requires a real estate licensee to place the principal's interests above the licensee's own? Is it A, the duty to appraise the property? B, the duty of loyalty, obedience and putting the principal first? C, the duty to guarantee a sale? D, the duty of price fixing? The correct answer is B. Loyalty is a core fiduciary duty owed by an agent to a principal, requiring the agent to act in the principal's best interest. In Florida, however, most licensees work as transaction brokers rather than single agents, which changes the specific duties owed. Fiduciary-style duties are strongest in a single-agent relationship. Question 2. Under Florida law, what is the default brokerage relationship presumed when a licensee deals with a member of the public? Is it A, transaction broker? B, no brokerage relationship? C, single agent for the buyer? D, dual agent? The correct answer is A. Florida's brokerage relationship law presumes a transaction broker relationship unless the parties establish another relationship in writing. A transaction broker provides limited representation to a buyer or seller but does not owe full fiduciary duties. This default was designed to reduce confusion over agency. Specific statutory details can change, so verify current Chapter 475 provisions. Question 3. Which of the following best describes real property? Is it A lease that lasts less than 1 year? B, movable items owned by a person? C, land and everything permanently attached to it, plus the bundle of legal rights? D, only the physical soil and minerals below the surface? The correct answer is C. Real property includes land, improvements permanently affixed to it, and the associated legal rights known as the bundle of rights. Personal property, chattel, is movable and not permanently attached. The distinction matters because different laws govern the sale of each. Question 4. The bundle of rights in real property ownership includes the right to do all of the following except, is it A, transfer the property to another? B, use the property in violation of valid zoning laws? C, exclude others from the property? D, possess the property? The correct answer is B. The bundle of rights typically includes possession, control, enjoyment, exclusion, and disposition. However, these rights are always subject to government limitations such as zoning, so an owner cannot legally use property in violation of valid law. Ownership rights are not absolute. Question 5. An item that was once personal property but has become permanently attached to real estate is called A. Is it A, leasehold? B, chattel? C, fixture? D, implement? The correct answer is C. A fixture is personal property that has been attached to land or a building in a way that makes it part of the real estate. Courts often use tests such as method of attachment, adaptation, and intention. Fixtures generally transfer with the property unless excluded in the contract. Question 6. Which government power allows the taking of private property for public use with just compensation? Is it A, police power? B, estoppel? C, escheat? D, eminent domain? The correct answer is D. Eminent domain is the government's power to take private property for public use, provided just compensation is paid to the owner. The actual process of taking is called condemnation. It is one of the 4 government powers, often remembered as PEAT, police power, eminent domain, taxation, escheat. Question 7. When a person dies without a will and without legal heirs, ownership of the property passes to the state through, is it A, escheat? B, adverse possession? C, eminent domain? D, novation? The correct answer is A. Escheat is the government power by which property reverts to the state when an owner dies intestate, without a will, and leaves no legal heirs. It prevents property from being ownerless. It is one of the 4 basic governmental powers over real estate. Question 8. Which of the following is an example of the government's police power? Is it A. Claiming property of a person who dies with no heirs? B. Collecting property taxes to fund government? C. Taking land to build a highway with compensation? D. Enforcing zoning and building codes for public health and safety? The correct answer is D. Police power is the government's authority to regulate property to protect public health, safety, and welfare, and it includes zoning and building codes. Unlike eminent domain, no compensation is paid to the owner for these regulations. It underlies most land use controls. Question 9. A form of co-ownership that includes the right of survivorship, meaning a deceased owner's share passes automatically to the surviving owners, is it A. Tenancy in common? B. Ownership in severalty? C. Joint tenancy? D. A life estate? The correct answer is C. Joint tenancy includes the right of survivorship, so when one owner dies their interest passes automatically to the surviving joint tenants rather than through probate. It traditionally requires the 4 unities of time, title, interest, and possession. Tenancy in common, by contrast, has no survivorship right. Question 10. Ownership of real property by one individual or entity alone is called ownership in, is it A. Common? B. Severalty? C. Joint tenancy? D. Partnership? The correct answer is B. Ownership in severalty means title is held by a single person or a single legal entity. The word derives from the idea that the owner is severed from other owners. It contrasts with the various forms of concurrent, co-ownership. Question 11. The highest and most complete form of ownership interest in real estate is it A. An easement? B. A life estate? C. Fee simple absolute? D. A leasehold estate? The correct answer is C. Fee simple absolute is the most complete ownership interest, giving the holder full rights subject only to governmental powers and any private restrictions. It is of indefinite duration and freely transferable and inheritable. Most residential property is held in fee simple. Question 12. An estate that lasts only for the duration of a specified person's life is A. Is it A. Tenancy at sufferance? B. Periodic tenancy? C. Life estate? D. Fee simple determinable? The correct answer is C. A life estate is a freehold interest measured by the life of a named person, often the life tenant. When that person dies, the property passes to a remainderman or reverts to the grantor. The life tenant may use the property but cannot commit waste. Question 13. The right of one party to use another's land for a specific purpose, such as a driveway or utility line, is A. Is it A. Easement? B. Lien? C. Deed restriction? D. Encroachment? The correct answer is A. An easement is a non-possessory right to use another owner's land for a specific purpose. An easement appurtenant benefits an adjacent parcel, while an easement in gross benefits a person or company such as a utility. Easements can affect a property's value and use. Question 14. A lien placed against a property as security for the repayment of a debt is best described as A. Is it A. Financial encumbrance on title? B. Transfer of full ownership? C. Physical intrusion onto neighboring land? D. Government zoning classification? The correct answer is A. A lien is a claim or encumbrance against property that secures payment of a debt or obligation. Common examples include mortgages, property tax liens, and mechanics liens. Liens generally must be satisfied before clear title can transfer. Question 15. A structure or improvement that unlawfully extends over a property boundary onto a neighbor's land is called a Is it A. Easement in gross? B. Emblement? C. Estoppel? D. Encroachment? The correct answer is D. An encroachment occurs when a building, fence, or other improvement intrudes onto an adjoining owner's property. It is typically discovered through a survey and can cloud title. Encroachments may lead to disputes or claims for removal or compensation. Question 16. Private restrictions on land use created by a developer and recorded to control a subdivision are commonly called, is it A, eminent domain orders? B, deed restrictions or restrictive covenants? C, zoning ordinances? D, building permits? The correct answer is B, deed restrictions, also called restrictive covenants or CC&RS, are private limitations placed on land use, often by a developer for a subdivision. They run with the land and bind future owners. Unlike zoning, they are enforced by private parties rather than the government. Question 17. A homeowners association, HOA, most commonly has the authority to, is it A, change state zoning laws? B, issue real estate licenses? C, enforce community rules and collect assessments from members? D, set mortgage interest rates? The correct answer is C. An HOA governs a community, enforcing its covenants and rules and collecting assessments to fund shared expenses. Buyers of HOA-governed property agree to abide by its documents. Assessments and restrictions can materially affect ownership costs and use. Question 18. In Florida, a person's primary residence may qualify for a homestead exemption, which primarily provides, is it A, a guarantee that property taxes will never increase? B, free title insurance? C, a reduction in the property's taxable assessed value and certain creditor protections? D, exemption from all zoning laws? The correct answer is C. Florida's homestead exemption reduces the taxable assessed value of an owner's primary residence and provides certain protections from forced sale by creditors. It also interacts with assessment increase limits under the Save Our Homes provision. Exact amounts and rules are set by law and can change. Question 19. Which of the following is considered an example of personal property, chattel, rather than real property? Is it A, a freestanding refrigerator that is not built in? B, the land itself? C, an in-ground swimming pool? D, a permanently installed central air conditioning system? The correct answer is A, personal property, or chattel, is movable and not permanently affixed to real estate. A freestanding refrigerator generally remains personal property, while built-in or permanently attached items are usually fixtures. Contracts should specify which items convey to avoid disputes. Question 20. A licensee who discovers a material defect that is not readily observable by the buyer generally has a duty to, is it A, ignore it because buyers should inspect? B, disclose the known material defect? C, report it only to the MLS? D, conceal it to protect the seller? The correct answer is B. Florida law and case precedent require disclosure of known material defects that materially affect a property's value and are not readily observable to the buyer. This duty applies even in a transaction broker relationship. Failure to disclose can create liability for the licensee and seller. Question 21. The process by which soil is gradually deposited by the action of water, increasing an owner's land, is called, is it A, reliction? B, avulsion? C, accretion? D, erosion? The correct answer is C. Accretion is the gradual addition of land through the deposit of soil by natural water action, and the new soil is called alluvion. It typically increases the landowner's property. Erosion is the opposite, gradual loss of land. Question 22. Which of the following would most likely be classified as a freehold estate? Is it A, fee simple ownership of a home? B, a one-year apartment lease? C, a tenancy at sufferance? D, a month-to-month tenancy? The correct answer is A. Freehold estates involve ownership of real property for an indefinite duration, such as fee simple and life estates. Leasehold estates, by contrast, give possession for a limited time without ownership. The key distinction is ownership versus a temporary right to possess. Question 23. A married couple in Florida who take title together as a legally protected form of co-ownership with survivorship rights typically hold title as, is it A, tenants by the entirety? B, tenants in common? C, joint venturers? D, owners in severalty? The correct answer is A. Tenancy by the entirety is a form of co-ownership available only to married couples in states such as Florida, and it includes rights of survivorship. It also offers protection from certain creditors of only one spouse. On the death of one spouse, the survivor owns the whole. Question 24. The physical characteristic of land meaning that no two parcels are exactly alike is known as, is it A, immobility? B, indestructibility? C, non-homogeneity, uniqueness? D, scarcity? The correct answer is C, non-homogeneity, also called heterogeneity or uniqueness, means every parcel of land differs at least by location. This is one of the physical characteristics of land, along with immobility and indestructibility. Uniqueness supports the legal remedy of specific performance in real estate contracts. How many of these 24 did you get right so far? Subscribe to Prep Pass so you can come back and drill the rest before your exam. Question 25. Which Florida body is primarily responsible for administering and enforcing the real estate license law under Chapter 475? Is it A, the Florida Real Estate Commission, FREC? B, the Florida Bar? C, the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development? D, the National Association of Realtors? The correct answer is A. The Florida Real Estate Commission, FREC, administers and enforces Chapter 475 of the Florida Statutes, which governs real estate licensing and practice. FREC operates within the Department of Business and Professional Regulation, DBPR. Its duties include rulemaking, licensing, and discipline. Specific rules can change over time. Question 26. Under Florida law, a sales associate must perform licensed real estate activities under the supervision of, is it A, the county tax collector? B, no one. Sales associates may operate independently. C, the buyer's attorney? D, a licensed broker or owner-developer employer? The correct answer is D. A Florida sales associate must be employed by an act under the direction of a licensed broker or a licensed owner-developer. Sales associates cannot operate independently or be paid directly by consumers. This supervisory structure is central to Chapter 475. Question 27. A real estate licensee who represents a buyer or seller with limited representation, not as a fiduciary, is acting as A, is it A, transaction broker? B, designated sales associate? C, single agent? D, dual agent? The correct answer is A. A transaction broker provides limited representation and owes duties such as dealing honestly and fairly, accounting for funds, and disclosing known material facts, but not full fiduciary loyalty. This is Florida's default relationship. It differs from a single agent, who owes full fiduciary duties. Question 28. Which of the following is one of the duties a Florida single agent owes that a transaction broker does not? Is it A, accounting for all funds? B, dealing honestly and fairly? C, disclosing known material facts affecting value? D, loyalty and full confidentiality to the principal? The correct answer is D. A single agent owes full fiduciary duties including loyalty, confidentiality, obedience, and full disclosure to the principal. A transaction broker owes a more limited set of duties and does not owe loyalty or full confidentiality. Both relationships require honesty, accounting, and disclosure of material facts. Question 29. Escrow funds held by a broker must generally be, is it A, loan to the buyer for closing costs? B. Kept in a separate trust or escrow account, not commingled with the broker's own funds. C. Deposited into the broker's personal checking account. D. Immediately paid to the seller upon receipt. The correct answer is B. Brokers must place escrowed funds, such as earnest money deposits, into a designated trust or escrow account and must not commingle them with personal or operating funds. Florida law sets specific timeframes for deposit. Improper handling of escrow funds is a common cause of discipline. Question 30. Commingling, a violation of Florida real estate law, refers to, is it A. Advertising a property without the owner's consent? B. Failing to renew a license on time? C. Mixing client escrow funds with the broker's personal or business funds? D. Representing both buyer and seller? The correct answer is C. Commingling occurs when a broker mixes clients' trust funds with the broker's own personal or business money. It is prohibited because it endangers client funds and obscures accountability. Conversion, a related and more serious offense, is actually using those funds improperly. Question 31. To be eligible for an initial Florida Sales Associate license, an applicant must generally be at least, is it A. 25 years old and a Florida resident for 10 years? B. 16 years old with no education requirement? C. 18 years old and hold a high school diploma or equivalent? D. 21 years old and a college graduate? The correct answer is C. Applicants for a Florida Sales Associate license generally must be at least 18 years old and hold a high school diploma or its equivalent. They must also complete required pre-licensing education, pass a background check, and pass the state exam. Exact requirements are set by statute and rule and can change. Question 32. Which of the following actions by a licensee would most likely be grounds for disciplinary action by FREC? Is it A. Recommending that a buyer obtain an inspection? B. Providing the seller with a copy of the listing agreement? C. Placing an earnest money deposit in escrow promptly? D. Fraud, misrepresentation, or concealment in a transaction? The correct answer is D. Fraud, misrepresentation, concealment, dishonest dealing, and similar acts are grounds for discipline under Chapter 475. FREC may impose penalties ranging from fines to license suspension or revocation. Recommending inspections and handling escrow properly are lawful, expected practices. Question 33. A Florida broker who wishes to open a real estate office must, is it A. Share a single license among multiple brokers? B. Operate only from the broker's home with no registration? C. Maintain and register a principal office with DBPR? D. Avoid displaying any sign or identification? The correct answer is C. A Florida broker must maintain a principal office and register it with the DBPR, and branch offices generally must also be registered. The office must meet requirements for signage and record keeping. These rules help ensure accountability and consumer access. Question 34. The purpose of continuing education requirements for Florida real estate licensees is primarily to, is it A. Keep licensees current on law and practice for consumer protection? B. Reduce the number of licensees in the market? C. Guarantee licensees a minimum income? D. Increase state revenue from license fees? The correct answer is A. Continuing education requirements ensure licensees stay current on laws, ethics, and best practices, which protects consumers. Florida requires a set number of CE hours each renewal cycle, including specified core and law topics. The specific hour requirements are set by rule and can change. Question 35. If a broker's escrow account has conflicting demands from a buyer and seller over a disputed deposit, Florida law allows the broker to use several settlement procedures, including, is it A. Ignoring the dispute indefinitely? B. Keeping the disputed funds as a commission? C. Requesting an escrow disbursement order, EDO, from FREC? D. Immediately giving the funds to whichever party asks first? The correct answer is C. When there are conflicting demands or a good faith doubt over escrowed funds, a Florida broker must promptly notify FREC and choose a settlement procedure such as an EDO, mediation, arbitration, or interpleader. The broker may not simply keep or arbitrarily release the funds. Timely notification is required by law. Question 36. Which of the following individuals generally must hold a real estate license to be paid a commission for the activity described? Is it A person who, for another and for compensation, negotiates the sale of real estate? B. An owner selling their own personal residence? C. A salaried apartment manager renting units of their employer? D. A licensed attorney handling a client's legal matter within their practice? The correct answer is A. Florida law requires a license for anyone who, for another and for compensation, performs real estate services such as selling, buying, leasing, or negotiating. Certain parties are exempt, including owners selling their own property and attorneys acting within their practice. The compensation for another element is key to the license requirement. Question 37. An earnest money deposit delivered by a buyer with an offer is typically held by the, is it A, county property appraiser? B, broker or an authorized escrow holder such as a title company? C, buyer's personal bank in the buyer's own account? D, listing sign company? The correct answer is B. Earnest money deposits are typically held in escrow by a neutral party such as the broker, a title company, or an attorney. The funds show the buyer's good faith and are credited or handled per the contract at closing. Florida sets time limits for depositing these funds into escrow. Question 38. A licensee who tells a buyer that a home has the best view in the county is most likely engaging in, is it A, a material misrepresentation of fact? B, fraud, which is always actionable? C, puffing, which is a non-actionable statement of opinion? D, commingling of funds? The correct answer is C. Puffing is an exaggerated opinion or sales talk that a reasonable person would not treat as a statement of fact, and it is generally not actionable. It differs from misrepresentation, which is a false statement of material fact. Licensees should still avoid statements that could mislead a buyer. Question 39. Under Florida law, when must a single agent disclosure or transaction broker notice generally be provided? Is it A, never, disclosure is optional? B, only if the customer specifically requests it? C, before or at the time of entering into a listing or before showing property, as required by statute? D, only after closing has occurred? The correct answer is C. Florida's brokerage relationship disclosure requirements specify when and how licensees must disclose the type of relationship, historically tied to the point of entering a listing agreement or before showing property. The exact disclosure obligations have been amended over time. Licensees must follow the current statutory requirements in Chapter 475. Question 40. The Florida Real Estate Recovery Fund exists primarily to, is it A, reimburse consumers who obtain a court judgment for a licensee's wrongdoing that cannot be collected? B, pay licensees when commissions go unpaid by brokers? C, provide loans to first-time homebuyers? D, fund advertising for the real estate industry? The correct answer is A. The Recovery Fund reimburses members of the public who have suffered monetary damages from a licensee's fraud or similar act and hold an uncollectible court judgment. Payment from the fund can lead to automatic suspension of the offending licensee. Recovery is subject to statutory limits per transaction and licensee. That's the set. If these helped, subscribe to Prep Pass, then run the full practice test for free at preppass.org before your exam day.